Dr. Ogo Okoye, please can you join them here? Mr. Chukwubuike Madu. Chukwubuike Madu. And then I'd like to invite the moderator of this particular session, City Lawrence B. Please, sir, we would like you to come over to this session. Please, if you want to clap, let's do it well. Now that we're settling down, we have two panelists that will be joining us. One from New York University, Dr. Jumo Ayandele. I understand, of course, he's a Nigerian, so I'm sure we'll be able to hear him speak clearly. And then we're also expecting Dr. Yvonne Yenda. Dr. Yvonne Yenda is of the South Regina University, Newport, Rhode Island. So we'll connect with them and listen to them. Human national security, food safety, and financial literacy, financial security. Settled for what we did earlier. We'll have them speak. I will just hear them from the microphone, please. Okay, so we'll be listening to Dr. Jumo Ayandele. I hope I got the pronunciation correct. Okay, so we're all ears, we're listening. Thank you for taking time to speak with us. We're listening now. You can go on.
Thank you so much, MEF, and for the summit for allowing me to present my research, allowing me to talk about human security and to share my perspective of the participation in government efforts and ways of incorporating military actors in the security space. So with that said, I want to briefly touch on just a brief overview of what we are going through in Nigeria today. And then I will talk about a people-centered approach that focuses on the development of civil society capabilities to evaluate, challenge, and endorse government decisions and the analysis of defense and security affairs. When it comes to the Nigerian context, particularly the challenges that we are facing, we find that accessing information is what is most important in really trying to implement human security. And then, I'll talk about ways forward, how we can possibly strengthen capacity and access said information. So Nigeria's increasing security crisis really revolves around four different but overlapping threats, and I'm sure everybody participating in the hall knows most of these different overlapping threats. The first from militant jihadism, from Boko Haram and its splinter group ISWAP. Then the second being, the farmer-pastoralist conflict, which really comes from the intercommunal clashes between these two groups that involve long-standing tensions over access to land, access to water, and its use between communities that are engaged in sedentary agriculture and pastoralism. Now, the third one is the rise in violence from these threats from armed gangs and militias that are really engaged in this kidnapping for ransom. And these gangs and militias have multiple motives that range from pure economic interest to political interest. And then we have the final security threat that is really linked to secessionist movements that we see today in southeastern Nigeria and southwestern Nigeria. So with that said, knowing that these challenges are what we are facing in Nigeria today, we know that government response and today's response to Nigeria's deteriorating security situation has continued to really employ almost only one part of the equation between the relationship with the state and non-military actors. We do know that the state itself, civil society. We do have a very expansive civil society sector. The incorporation of non-military actors in this security space remains very challenging. And I think we have three major constraints why our incorporation continues to remain challenging. First, we are often faced with a lack of capacity, not in terms of knowledge. We are very, very brilliant people in this hall, but in terms of skills and methods of advocacy and mediation. So, funding-related issues, resource deficiencies, and limited collaboration with other stakeholders that are in this space influence public opinion and public debates on security-related issues. Second, the limited incorporation of us in the security domain has remained elitist. It is very, very elitist when it comes to, registration of civil society organizations or non-profit, security consulting firms, for example. These requirements for registration are still very stringent for the poor and the illiterate that could possibly help us to really understanding what is going on in their communities. So this makes it very, very impossible for interested but underprivileged members of society who want to focus on peace building and mediation to contribute their expertise, especially in undergoverned areas where peace and stability has remained elusive. Finally, third but not the least, the decision to really employ primarily military measures continues to stem from this perceived limited capacity of Nigeria's security institution. When we compare ourselves to secessionist groups such as IPOB, we do believe that our military capacity is greater than a lot of these non-armed groups or non-state armed groups, and this has continued to really, hinder our ability to employ other types of human security approaches or measures that possibly solve the causes of conflict in a lot of communities. With that said, the limited engagement of us in the security space, we have to change that. And a key ingredient in success will depend on the ability of us to gain supporters and to convince the public and state leaders of the benefits of the human security approach, which Dr. Yvonne is going to talk about in a few. However, for this approach to be successful, I do argue that our state leaders must also be willing to make information about the country's security sector institutions, the policies, the practices widely available to the public so that we can also help due to national security considerations. The successful development of our capacities and citizen participation will depend on fostering to the greatest degree possible access and transparency within those limits. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Jumo. I am the name of the New York University. That's a brilliant presentation. I'm sure we'll take it out. Young Yenda, Yvonne Yenda, is he there?
Yes, I'm here, sir.
Oh, okay, please. I will appreciate if you could make yours a little briefer.
Okay, no problem. We'll try my best.
Okay. You're on now. You're on.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for the opportunity and to the organizers for the invitation. And for zooming in Nigerian context with a couple of examples, but mostly looking forward to the Q&A portion where we can discuss on this. My focus is more on scoping security challenges and opportunities. Yes, we can talk about the idea of strengthening our security system and of course developing a more sustainable, stable and peaceful continent and country in the case of Nigeria. But it's also important for us to try to understand what are some challenges their own community. That is the first element I wanted to highlight on the leadership. So we need to highlight and reflect on the type of leadership within the military that we want and we want to see in order to promote and strengthen security. On the question of political leadership, I'll use two countries, Kenya and the DRC. Kenya just demonstrated that with acceptable, I'm not saying very much good, but with acceptable political leadership, we can see a sense of stability even in a time of high tension such as elections. And on the DRC side, we can still see that weak political leadership create more uncertainty and fragility leading to insecurity. So it's important that as we reflect on security issues, we look at the leadership as the key primary point to assess. The second element is issues of legitimacy of action. One case that I want to highlight is the case of Burundi, for instance, in 2015, after the election. The government, which deemed to be legitimate, responded to the protest, the electoral protest with force and extreme use of force was not questioned. But the legitimacy of the actions used by the government lead sometimes to insecurity and stability. Of course, Nigeria is as a case with the recent protest on the south and so on. The way, for instance, the police reacted to not only project order and stability, but the extreme use of force by the police lead also to a sense of insecurity. That is the second point I wanted to highlight, issues of legitimacy of action. The third country I want to land on that is the case of Ethiopia with the Tigray region. We all are aware how, for instance, the Ethiopian government, while being legitimate in terms of needing to provide national security, but their actions did not provide a space for stability and security. And the third point I want to highlight quickly is the issues of training of defense forces. Yes, we have all these actions of legitimacy. We see the police not acting the right way, mostly because we don't have proper training of defense forces. We train well on the process now, the focus is more on counter-terrorism strategies and so on, but we're not training our defense forces, our police, on how to manage the crowd during peaceful protests, for instance. And there are a couple of countries that have shown that, including the Central African Republic. And the case of Central African Republic is more important because there, instead of training the locals, they are outsourcing security forces, Wagner forces, and Mali is doing the same. So I think the concern here is how do we project African security by not the contractors? This is a key issue. I think the trend is growing in Africa. We have Mozambique, Mali, Central African Republic. So these are some issues that we need to reflect on the level of training and outsourcing security forces. And the fourth point is the strategic responses versus local grievances. Often we see government responding into this big framework of national security, as Dr. Ayandele mentioned, but the grievances are not always at the level of the national level. For instance, you have people who are suffering for unemployment, struggling with access to water and other resources. But when you frame their frustrations as issues of national concern or national security, the responses that we keep seeing developed by the government are so big, so broad, that they are missing the point of addressing legitimacy and grievances of local community, which may not even be at the level of the state. But strategies are so big, planned, that they're missing the point. And in conclusion, what can we do at this point, or what can be suggested as policy or approach and strategic move? One, I would say we need to focus on adaptation and ownership of security models. We need to adapt to crisis. We need to the grievances and concerns arise. Second point in conclusion, we need to mobilize the right resources. It is amazing to see that, for instance, programs such as DDR, disarmament mobilization organizations, most of these programs are being funded by Western donors, but this is happening in African countries. How would you expect a European country to fund your program to reintegrate your own people in your own community? And if these funders don't see it as a priority, therefore, you create frustration in people who decided to demobilize. So we need to think about how to raise funding and resources, moving into the uncomfortable space where original African model of security prevails above and beyond the Western model. The question that I may ask as a way of concluding, what do we have as original in Africa, in Nigeria, which is very much unique to Nigerian model of security that we should focus on, develop and build to strengthen our security system, but also to provide a sense of safety and hope to our countries, our continent, and our people. And that's where I will stop. Again, thank you so much for the opportunity.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Yende. In fact, this presentation is so thought-provoking, particularly your closing. Yeah, we have a lot of models, African models. I'm sure we'll be taking a lot away from this. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Two speakers actually, I watched them grow, get their PhD and stuff from Rutgers University. So, just to, for full disclosure, I'm a mentee that
Yes, of course, somebody has already said it. I know you, I was saying earlier that our history goes back. We were classmates in the university. Yes. Okay, yes. Please, the Vice Chancellor of Gregory University, the Vice Chancellor, the founder is actually Professor Gregory Ibe. And we have with us the Vice Chancellor of Gregory University, Uturu. Thank you so much for coming, Professor Augustine Mwakwe. You're welcome, sir. All right, so now I would like to hand over to the moderator, CP Alobi.
Yeah, thank you very much. Our Vice Chancellor, profs amongst us, doctors, erudite scholars, ladies and gentlemen, you had the two speakers who have just spoken to us, and the various points they raised. He talked, like the last speaker talked about, we having a model, African model, that is autochthonous, homegrown, that is from us, not just alien to us, that just imposed and sent to us, that will based on abilities and challenges, that is homegrown. It's not about that, we will address that. And in most cases, we talk about adaptation, and of course, globalization too has contributed a lot to this security. Because it's a global village, we share things, interdependency, and so forth. They talk about the role of citizens in security, which we all address as security in the constitution, but by the role of the citizens. And then they talk about community engagement. How do you get the community engaged? Not just people come to about security and they go away. The people are not engaged. When people are made to hold what they ought to do, they become more interested, they become more committed. And when they become more committed, they want to sacrifice and want to hold more. So that community engagement is very, very important. And that is why sometimes we do this federal government law, what they call community policing. That is getting people involved in the policing of their communities and the society, the community. They don't talk about the state actors and non-state actors. in national security. Who are the state actors? State actors, the military, the police, security agencies, are not state actors like the vigilante, members of the CSOs and so forth, private security and so forth. These are the state actors. The state actors have a role to play. If you recall, in our traditional society, we have way before the event of the colonial administration to Nigeria. The traditional society have the way of policing that security communities, like the aid system, for instance. That was just a non-state actor that we used to ensure that protesters are involved. Even right now, CUs have been organized to secure their communities. These are all community involved engagement. Internal security with national security. And national security, of course, is about how, which is called Section 210 of the Constitution, about the military is supposed to take care of that. Our sovereignty and territorial integrity and so forth. But the military now have left their primary mandate of stability to focus, rather than focusing on external aggression, external aggression, and national security, now on internal security. And that now has meant there is this what I call misplaced priority. Misplaced priority in the sense that the police ought to be in charge of internal security, like the type of internal security. It's not allowed to function effectively. Funding is not being given. Everything happens to the military. Like 3 days ago, I watched the Mr. President launching national crisis, national doctrine. Something you learn to a doctrine is just like, okay, when I say like, do you remember why the animal George Orwell book Animal Farm? Yes. How the animal drew away Jones. They had a doctrine, and doctrine Bishop England, Bishop Ireland, they imbibed that doctrine. But how have Nigerians imbibed the doctrine from how crisis management, like about the role of women and so forth, conflict resolution, mediation and so forth, conflict prevention. Earlier, our MC mentioned why have we institutionalized violence and legitimate means for achieving objective and goals? We don't address that. Why people see violence as legitimate means for achieving goals? For example, I used to see when you have a case, you probably know whether we are organized or we gather the attack the person or body attack and so forth. So these are issues we need to address. There's so much in various areas, and again talk about human security. Human security is a great issue of the welfare, poverty alleviation, job creation. These are things, empowerment of the people. How do you empower the people? They don't talk about training. You see, security is knowledge based. You need to apply the knowledge and capacity to be able to drive to do what you need to do. When you don't have the knowledge base and also technologically driven, how are we utilizing technology in our security architecture? And most of how we look at the security reform. Today, our security agents are not isolated from the political control, and this has caused us a problem. It's being politicized. We need to insulate the police from political control. Like my colleague, my friend, when Commissioner of Police, when the governor of the Commissioner of Police do this, arrest this because it's a political. We refuse to arrest it, or you become not a lawyer, Commissioner of Police. On the effect of the police and security agencies. So we need to isolate the security agencies from political control. And then the government need to develop a strong will, the will to act and to do things the right way. Don't look about nepotic mentality or emotions. You know, emotions like a veil. If you cross ourselves for doing some sort of reason, and when that is done, of course you lose the track. So I think you've had it yourself, the panelists. We hope that we'll do the best, do our best in these topics. Thank you very much. So I don't know where we'll start. Then we can now pass the microphone to them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, the coordinator of this session. Okay, I think the best way to start would be to those who will be addressing the issue of human and national security. They can speak. We'll move from there to food security, and then from there we'll move into financial literacy and financial security. So I think you already know the panel you're supposed to be part of.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Fred Onya. I'm of the Department of Political Science, University of Nigeria, Sudan. I want to talk briefly about national security and human security. You know, these are two terms that we use, but we need to contextualize them to actually understand what we mean when we are talking of either of them. Now, prior to 1994, emphasis has always been on national security, which is protecting the state from external aggression. But from 1994, when the United Nations Development Program released their Human Development Reports, they changed the paradigm from discussing national security to discussing human security, which focuses on human beings, on human affairs. Because even when you are talking of protecting the country from external aggression, when a country faces external aggression, who are the people that become the victims? It is human beings. So the state is just an abstract concept. When you are talking of the state, you are talking of the people that live within the state. It's what the United Nations is now emphasizing. And that is why we are now talking about food security, economic security, health security, environmental security, and all that. And if you look at the security challenges we are facing in Nigeria currently, you see that essentially what it boils down to is a hampering of human security. Because whether you are talking of the activities of Boko Haram, or you are talking of bandits or kidnappers, or unknown gunmen, or whatever name they are called, the people that are victims of their activities are human beings. And they are all interlinked. The different aspects of human security are all interlinked. Because food security, for instance, when the madam that came from Ebe talked about women not being able to go to farm anymore, what is the implication of that? At the end of the day, what does it ultimately lead to? Food insecurity. That the prices of foodstuff have gone up, the supply is now less than it used to be. There are a lot of things that used to come from the north which are no longer coming because of the fact that farmers in the north, where they do mechanized farming and all that, they cannot easily access their farms. If you go to some Zamfara states and some other states in the northwest, bandits impose all kinds of levies which you have to pay before they allow you to go to the farm, either to plant or to harvest. And some of them also pay the bandits to provide them protection anytime they want to access their farm. So all these things have affected food security, and we are all feeling the pinch. Even down here in the southeast, it is the same scenario that we are facing. You know, a lot of, in my village, for instance, there was one weekend I went to, and I was hearing the hooting of cows just about 200 meters away from my house. You know, the herders have taken over all the bushes around my place, and they used to come from those bushes, stroll into the community, and buy things and walk away. Said that bandits will wear AK-47 on their shoulders, come into the market, buy things, collect change, and go back unchallenged by anybody. So human security is something that you know, the greatest challenge we have before us right now is human security. And having said that, I want to talk briefly about the first president that talked about citizens' engagement and participation to be able to improve our security. But my question is, do the security agencies actually encourage citizens' participation? When you give information to the police, you become a victim. Before you know it, that if there is a notorious armed robber in your community and you go and give the name to the police, the same police who gave information will go and tell you, this is the person that told us that you are disturbing the community, and they will come for you. And then the neighborhood watches that have been set up in various communities, are they operating freely? There's a recent case, I come from Udi. There's a recent case we have in my community who were operating along Oji River Road, you know, Udi to Oji River Road, and they quickly moved to that place, apprehended one of them, and shot the person. But now the case has turned against the person that shot him, and that the policemen, the divisional police officers and all that, they are saying who authorized the neighborhood watchman to shoot. Right now, the community is contributing because it eventually led to the amputation of the leg of the person that was shot. The community is now taking the responsibility to pay the hospital bills, to buy artificial limb, and the person that actually fired that shot has gone into hiding because his life is in danger. So we are not honest with ourselves, or the security agents are not honest with themselves when they say that citizens should give them information, or that there should be citizens participation and all that. There was also some time ago, I don't know the correct DPO in Uti, but about 3 years ago, the DPO in my community was a Fulani man. There were some Fulani, let me use the word terrorists, who were apprehended along that four-corner road. But now the case has turned against the person that shot him, and that the policemen, the divisional police officers and all that, they are saying who authorized the neighborhood watchman to shoot. Right on the leg of the person that was shot, the community is now taking the responsibility to pay the hospital bills, to buy artificial limb, and the person that actually fired that shot has gone into hiding because his life is in danger. So we are not honest with ourselves, or the security agents are not honest, who were apprehended along that four-corner road. And they arrested the guy, took him to the police, and the next day he was released. So what are we talking about? Citizens engagement and community participation. It doesn't really, are they really serious about us participating? And when we are not allowed to bear firearms, and then you have somebody who comes to your house to attack you, and you just be watching the person, that you are incapacitated, there's nothing you can do. And when they are apprehended, the next order comes that they should be released. So these are the things that are hampering our security. There is complicity on the part of the government, there is complicity on the part of security agencies, there is also complicity on the across all levels. Some weeks ago, there were some soldiers that were apprehended where they were sharing money that was paid as ransom by kidnappers. So what are we talking about? We all know this, but we can't talk about it freely because everybody is afraid. But we have to say it so that will be a way of maybe starting this kind of conversation will help us to actually begin to address the issues well instead of pretending about it, because if we continue to not fear that we should not talk, we will all be consumed by it. May that never be our portion. But I know we have to do something seriously. The communities, the police should give us free hand to bear firearms. Some state governors in the north have Autumn said publicly on national television that he's going to buy ammunition for his people to start defending themselves, that they will no longer run away from Fulani herdsmen. The Zamfara state governor also asked the police commissioner to give guns to people, give licenses to people who have applied for guns so that they can use it to defend themselves. But over here, can we do that? Can our governor have that courage to say the police commissioner give people license who want to acquire guns because of their political interest? They don't want to do this, and then they will be saying that that it is not in their hand, that they are chief security officer by name. But as the AIG told us, the governors also have part of the blame, and they have a constitutional right to even engage the police and ensure that things are done properly. Thank you.
So thank you very much for that presentation. So much from this very great presentation. So much already. So much. Which one? This is video 4. Okay. And there are some earlier points we have made that he's also addressing. If you recall, if you've been here from the beginning, there's some very critical things. Thanks for the conceptualization of the term human security. I'm sure we have a better understanding of it now. From national security to human security. And if you look at all the aspects of the diverse areas of security we are addressing today, they all boil down to human security. Thank you so much. All right, we will have a second presentation on human and national security. Please.
Over the time as media practitioners, we have listened to security agents and we have had experiences and exposure to some of the things happening in the country. And going forth a bit from what my brother said, if you go to our villages, you find out that some of these herdsmen have taken over the forest. And as we say, one of the last presenters said that our security approach is elitist. Like they say, every politics is local. Also, every security should also be local. Because what affects my area may not exactly affect yours. May not be the same model you should adopt. And it brings to question, why is it that these people move freely in our domains, unchallenged? If you recall, before now, most youth are in the villages. Are either weak, those who are drunk, useless, or those who have just decided to settle. Most people who want to go for greener pasture leave the villages. No hospital, no viable business, no lights. So what will they be doing in the villages? If these young men are in the villages, I tell you that nobody will go to farms without they noticing it on time. But because people are, the aged, the weak are in the villages, so now they become vulnerable to these attacks. And it brings to question, how do we make sure that our villages are homes where we should live? Why are we running away from our villages? What should we do to return life in the villages? Election is coming. Who are we elected? I once heard, I saw a clip by a soldier saying they take instruction, and most times they might want to attack an area, but they're giving instruction not to. Sometimes they are encircled and walloped by these men eventually. That they are men under instruction, and they take instruction. And so, those who you elect to give them instruction, if you elect criminals and thieves, what do you expect? What kind of instruction do you expect from them? Who are traditional rulers these days? To mobilize people that will vote for credible people? Or are we going to collect 5,000 naira, 10,000, 2,000 bags of salt, and at the end, we go in for deeper problems? These are issues begging for answers. So, as we rethink and think through this thing, let us also know that where our role will be meaningful, starting from electioneering. That is where citizen engagement is most applicable. Because if you bring criminals in, then you can't provide information. There will be no form of reformation of our security forces. Because if people who are intelligent, public-spirited, people-oriented are enthroned as governors, as members of the parliament, as president, then we expect that they will not accept business as usual. There must be restructuring of every form, in every form. And so when you provide intelligence, we expect that the information you give will be put into use. Thank you.
Obiora is actually a practitioner himself. We would like to hear some of your experiences as far as managing human and national security is concerned. Please just come and address us in the next 3 minutes. Thank you.
Good evening all. I come from the area where we actually manage personnel for complementing security. We have a lot of challenges in trying to get the men and the women to their work effectively. Most of the challenges has been listed, but the industry is saddled with, is being dragged back as a result of no support or legislation to act effectively. The private security industry is littered everywhere, and most of the companies in private security industry have the capacity to gather information. When we gather this information, that information can be used because of communication breakdown. If I call the control room of police and give them information something is happening here, they will practically not respond. They will not take it serious. So I think we need to center this conversation too on how we can get various agencies and non-state actors in security to be able to talk to themselves. Security can be improved across board. The second one I want to speak on is the use of technology. Technology for security, there are a lot of them out there. However, from the state actors to most of non-state actors, does not employ technology in security, and that could help very well. The call centers being set up by the government. In our villages, we have the community vigilante. They know everybody by name, and they know your family. Maybe you are going at night and they come across you and say, if I'm pneumonia. It no longer happens today. The villages, as we know, have actually developed, but the security, that's the human security, have not adapted really to complement the development, and this also impacts on our security in the society. Thank you.
Yes, you did. You did very well. He gave a reference that I liked. There was a city I visited in the US as a Terre Haute, a town in Indiana. A town in Indiana, Terre Haute. I was amazed that the only place I saw a perimeter fencing, in fact, they used wire gauze, is the penitentiary, that's the prison. The banks, no gate, nothing, no fence. The university there, no gate, no fence, nothing. Even the Hilton, the hotel, Hilton, no gate, no fence. I was just amazed by that town. This is in the United States of America. So that boils down to what Emeka just shared with us. You know? And then it also emphasizing that government have long, the role of government in providing security have long shrunk. We're talking about the shrinking roles. For most communities who are not connected to the national grid, in fact, if you're connected, even the more the kind of bills you're bringing to your community will be amazing. You know? So the role of government, what we need to do with this conference, with the outcome of this, as far as I'm concerned, is to equip ourselves more with the knowledge on how to strengthen the way we've been doing things, understand how we can provide our security more than we have been doing before now. So on this point, I'd like to invite somebody else who will be speaking on food security. We've already seen the link. You can see that they are all fused. Yes. There's a I think there's something we call it in media. A convergence, that's what we call it in media. There's a convergence of all these diverse securities. So it's my pleasure to invite Attorney Ayalogo to come and speak to us about food security. Please, you have just 3 minutes. If you can just keep to that time, we will appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My My name is Prince Charles Ayaloro, the Director of Economic Nigeria Limited, one of the big firms that are into farming in the Enugu State and this country. If we are talking about food security, there is something we have to take into consideration. The quantity and quality of food that is available to families determines the quality of individuals that will exist in that particular community or society. So the food security is key to the progress of any nation. And in Nigeria, I think we have a problem of food insecurity. Even before the advent of non-state actors in trying to perverse our security system in Nigeria, we had insecurity in our food provisions, both at family level and at national level. If we know what happened in Benue State, that are probably regarded as the food basket of the nation, where up to 70 persons were murdered overnight. Ordinarily, somebody will feel that people who go out there to farm don't have any courage to go out to farm. And this is getting into everywhere in our community today. So that this security in our society is affecting the level of production of food in Nigeria. Even the government knows about what food security is all about. Before now, we hear about grain reserves here and there. Even along Abakaliki, there's a grain reserve there. Everywhere in the country, there are grain reserves. So that if at a point they sense that the level of food availability in the country is not enough, they release what they have in those grain reserves. But the problem now is that we don't have even enough for our daily need. Talk less of reserving any. And what is the solution to all these things? I feel the basic approach as it stands now is how to provide security for our people. And the essence of governance, first essence of governance is security. That is major essence of having a government in place. Preparate themselves as our governors, as our president. The past speaker, they mentioned about opportunity we have to be able to include the right persons who can address the problems we have in Nigeria. And where they will start is the security situation in the country. One of the problems you may have by having insecurity in the system is that the foreign investment will reduce drastically. Because no person who is sane enough, no the kind of security situation we have in this country, would like to invest. But what you have rather is the investing. Many persons, many companies, many corporations are taking investment outside Nigeria. It is something that is worrisome. And the kind of attention the government is paying and the agri sector is also very minimal. In spite of insecurity that are facing the farmers in Nigeria, the interest the government is having in the agricultural sector is very minimal. To the extent that up to 80% of Nigerians do not have enough food at that family level of security, food security. Only about 20% will say that they can afford 3 spare meals a day. And talk about the quality of the food and the quantity of the food that are available to them. And we know that all these things has a relationship with each other. When we don't have food to train our children, at the end of the day, we end up trying to develop the capacities of our children. And that will have a consequent effect of lowering what we can achieve as a nation. So we, in the farming sector, would like to have more government interest by way of providing facilities that will help produce more food, security that will help the farmers to be in their field. The most sector that is affected by security in Nigeria is the farming sector. This importance attached to food in the agricultural sector, whereby attention is paid to the extent that every country should produce what they can consume. So, but in this country, I don't know what our leaders are doing. They're not even interested in what's happening in this country, and allow things to pass as if we are in a ship without a leader, without somebody who's piloting it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Prince.
And Antonio Law, who is now a big time farmer. That's the challenges that we're having. Okay, so we will have another presentation from Abuja, program of the Institute of Management and Technology, to speak to us on financial security. Please, let's clap for her as she comes over.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'll speak on financial security, but there are some very important things I need to mention when we talk about security as a whole. In all the discussions we've had, we haven't really mentioned the gender implications of all this security that we're talking about. And for each single one, there is a gender implication. When you talk about the food security, for example, yes, we agree that it affects all of us. If you look at me, I don't look like the face of food insecurity, but I am.
We are not sure.
I'm telling you, last year I took a loan, went to Suwani, cultivated lots of land, palm fruit that was very expensive from Malaysia, and then the herdsmen went there, set fire to it, and the whole thing got destroyed. And unfortunately, there is no insurance scheme in Nigeria to compensate me for the massive loss that I have gone through. Okay, so I can survive it, but I have a cousin called Veggie who has slipped into poverty. She's been a farmer of Akidi all her life, and she can't even go to Suwani now because it isn't safe anymore. So I'm an economist. When we talk about food security, when we talk about a tax, for example, we teach students about what we call the final resting place of a tax. We ask what is the incidence of tax? Who is the person that bears the burden of a tax? With food security, we need to ask, who bears the final burden of food insecurity? And sadly, it is the woman. It is the woman who would bear the final burden of that insecurity. And we're not saying that men don't suffer. We're not trying to take away. But I want you to check who is going to bear the impact more, and it is the woman. You know, when we talk about food insecurity, whenever there's climate change, when we're dealing with crop failures, when we're dealing with herdsmen crisis, what it does ultimately is to heighten the vulnerabilities that women face. A lot of women would even go without food and tell their children, eat when you finish eating after we eat. But she didn't even have enough. But she can't manage to see her children go without food. So when we talk about all the insecurities we're talking about, let's talk about the insecurity. Talk about how it manifests and talk about how it has a gender implication. So we've talked about food. What about the economic aspect? When we talk about economy, how does it present? How does economic insecurity present? It presents as poverty. It presents as unemployment. It presents as reduced access to capital. You see, with the Jonathan administration, they came up with a very beautiful project, the UWIN project, between 2010 and 2015. And it was designed to encourage entrepreneurship. And Right now, UWIN isn't working anymore because a new government, a new policy, no problem. But have we wondered how many women have access to credit? It isn't easy for a woman, an educated woman even, to have access to credit. First of all, before you get that credit facility, you have to have your spouse's approval of your spouse. Unfortunately, most may not approve of it. And women do not even have that institutional support from maybe an inheritance, even from her father's house, or even from having her own money with which to invest. And so even with the entrepreneurship, government has realized that the only way we're going to grow this economy is from the private sector, and it is from entrepreneurs. But most women entrepreneurs do not even have access to credit. So what happens? When you don't have an inheritance or your own money to fall back on, and there are a lot of women who are poor but have non-poor husbands. So what happens? Where do you get it? So it's almost like running an obstacle horse. In obstacle race. In primary school, we were doing hurdle, where you jump over one hurdle, then after you meet another one. And that's how it is for women. When you scale one hurdle, there are 100 more waiting for you. So like I said, look at each security challenge and then look at the gender implications of that challenge. Then let's talk about health security. How does it manifest? It manifests, number one, in reduced access to even the hospitals. It manifests in a woman facing more challenges because maybe she's had several children and then the children are now all female because the male for some reason has died. So she's even threatened even in that husband's house for not producing a male heir that is alive. In all the stories we hear of people dying in the Bible, we hear particularly the crying of the widow that lost her son. She had nobody who was going to speak for her. And that's how it is with women. How health insecurity presents for the woman. It manifests as poverty. It manifests because there's an interconnectedness. Her poverty and her limited education should change her from even having the better access that she can get. And then we have environmental security again. The environmental insecurity is one very, very interesting one. Women are the primary users of fuel, that is household fuel, firewood. Women are the primary users of water in the household as well. So it's automatically their business on how it is gotten. Just cast your minds back. Did you ever see your fathers going to fetch water? An exception. You are an exception. How many times? Most times it is the women whose responsibility it is, including the firewood. And there was, I was listening to, or rather I was watching something a while back, and it was about Melinda Gates.
Paid care work by women. Do you understand? You weren't here. Because we make some emphasis that women play very pivotal roles. You understand? In family. That's the truth. Any man who is mature here understands what I'm talking about. Alright? So we don't, and then look at the sessions. Like tomorrow, the first session tomorrow will be addressing the issue of women. Talk about that now that we have Dr. Sirajo Yakubu online. We have him online from the University of, Nile University rather, Abuja. Yes. Prof, I know, Doc, I know you're ready. You have just about 5 minutes, please.
Just 5 minutes.
Yeah, okay, how many minutes do you want to take?
10 minutes?
Okay, we can give you up to 7 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yes, I'm Dr. Siraja Yakubu, the head of Department of International Law, Nile University of Nigeria. Thank you very much for inviting me to speak on security, society, and the state, the shrinking role of government in national and personal security. I think I don't want to overflow the issue of security in Nigeria. It's well known what is happening all over the news. Maybe what is not known is what is not reported.
we appear to have lost you. You had a...
No, I'm still with you.
Okay. Okay, we can get you.
There is a over there, and even me, I would say that I think that revolution is still time. I think if it's going to, prevent, terrorism financing as required by that is financial anti-tax force. But it is still time in Nigeria, considering the topic that they shouldn't take role of government in protecting people. Then I think it is still time, but I think we should amendment should be shelved for now until when our security forces are up to the task. Because if they are up to the task, then we can say security-wise, those who are being arranged to kidnap are actually undermine our security forces. But in the situation now, where people will even, there are a lot of allegations that people contacted security forces on their attacks. The nobody will come to their rescue. There was an attack in Katsina. The report said it was only vigilante groups that tried to defend their community. Security forces were absent. They didn't come to that area until in the morning when some people were taken. So I think the National Assembly should have a rethink, and the Nigerians should voice their opinion regarding the amendments. So having said that, I think I would like to offer some solutions. I hope those who are managers of the national security and our leaders will be listening to us today. I think we all need to start thinking what are the solutions to the security challenges that we're in now. And like I said, the managers and the politicians or leaders should listen to people, because solution can come from anywhere. So the first thing I would say in terms of solution is that there is need to restructure our internal security architecture. If we look at it very well, Nigeria has been porous for us. Not because we don't have trained security personnel, not because we don't have security personnel, but because the priority is being given to private individuals, both government and private businesses in terms of protection. You all agree with me that a substantial number of our policemen are deployed to the houses of those in government, in the houses of wealthy individuals and very important persons serving in government. The second solution is, I'm proposing today that those policemen then they completely and then redeployed and copy from even let's our security workers visit Nigeria. If they can visit Nigeria and learn something from Nigeria will be much more secure. I can tell you that. Number three, I think it is high time now when police are withdrawn from wealthy individuals, from business premises. Nigeria amended laws and allow private security companies who are registered with digital arms. Bear arms, not necessarily the radical and pistols, but there are in Nigeria, under the Nigerian law, there are firearms that are classified as prohibited, like the rifles, like pistols and so on. Police and military hardware are prohibited firearms. But then comes actions which are also very effective. It has been shown that it is locally made guns have been effective in defending towns and villages against the bandits. So we can deploy we can allow the Nigerian government should allow private companies to for the operators and carry arms, so that whosoever is the money to
hire private firm to secure his business, to secure his premise. He can do that. Let the police go and protect, organize themselves. They have, they police their community in the night, and apart from the elderly and young children, women, everybody is into whether the party is rich or poor. Everybody is out. They do rasta. They do rasta, and even it's your duty to participate, to patrol the towns in the night. The person will participate. As a result, now bandits are not coming to attack their own these two. But I think we can learn from them.
Yes, no, we need to round up. We need to round up.
Okay. Yes. Then we should also equip the security forces. The security forces will be equipped with modern weapons. If we have sanction for we should find a way to put us via other local means, and then we cannot put them. Allocate those weapons.
I have a lot of questions for you, but perhaps I'd like to pass it on. There are certain things I don't agree with. Your paper is beautiful. There are certain things I would have preferred to have a better clarification, but I'll make it known to you later. Thank you for participating. We appreciate you.
Invite the professor of Gregory University, Professor Wakwe, the Vice Chancellor of Gregory University. I'll invite him now to speak to us. You can choose to speak from any angle. We are fortunate to have another prof in our midst today. Please let's clap for him as he addresses us. Thank you.
The founder, Michael Eco Foundation, distinguished members of the high table, ladies and gentlemen, permit me to raise an existing protocol. I must commend the organizers of this program because it's very apt and it's very timely. Security, society, and the state, the shrinking role of government in national and personal security. There's no better time to stop with this topic than now. And I have looked at the various aspects of security, and I can only say this, that all of them are interwoven. None can be divulged or divorced from the other. They're all together. We talk about food security. Terrorism impinges on food security. Terrorism on health security. Because when we talk about health, for instance, we're talking about the general well-being of a person, of an organization, of a society, of a state. And health, for instance, has 5 different aspects. You have the physical health, you have the emotional health, which is called mental health, you have the spiritual health, you have the social health, and then you have the intellectual health. And for you to consider somebody, or a society, or an organization, or a state to be healthy, you must balance all of these aspects. This microphone is not healthy. Now you see, today, there is no Nigerian that is healthy. The Nigerian state is sick. If you don't want to hear it well. The Nigerian state is very, very sick. And is almost totally comatose.
Bedridden.
Is in coma.
Dead even.
People are living in emotional trauma. If you are driving from Enugu to Okibe or to Mwaya, your heart will be on your hand. Your heart palpitation, your heart is not free. Even when you go to bed in the night, you are praying that you wake up in the morning alive. We are not sure. People are threatened emotionally in this country. Even when you are answering the phone, you are not sure who is recording you to come after you. So there is that fear everywhere. So emotionally, people are devastated. So would you say that intellectually we are healthy? Now, apart from the knowledge that we're depriving the youths and the generations that should take over from us, look at the impact of the strike on the lecturers themselves and their families. Food security is there because most lecturers cannot even afford to give their children food. They can't afford to pay school fees for their children. That's why most of them cannot even afford to send their children to private schools. Because where is the money? A few of them that ventured in, like in Graduate University, they have been calling me, even as I was here, I was receiving call. Please have mercy. We are on strike, no money. If you stop my children from writing exam, what are we going to do? But does the government know about this? Are they sensitive to the plight of the lecturers, the plight of the children of tomorrow? Nobody's talking about that. What of the quality of the paper that we eventually get as degree? Which nation in Nigeria, in the world, which Western nation will recognize this kind of degree? Children overseas. Your own man is the provost. He has this, he has that. Don't tell us you don't have money. They have every information about you in their hands. I love what I was saying, that man from this University of America. It is the rat in the house that tells the one outside that there is food. So be careful how you talk about your achievements. Be careful. Don't even tell people about the progress of your children. You can't see my children's picture on my WhatsApp or anywhere, social media. It's even better to change their name. So we have general insecurity all around. Thank God for our sister talked about the women. They are hardest hit by the level of insecurity we have in Nigeria. Most ladies have gone into prostitution because of financial insecurity.
Low-income earners.
You ask them, but how do I survive? How can a lady of 45 years old still be depending on a man of 70 years old? Some young men who are getting to 40 are still depending on their parents. How wrong? Even those who have managed to graduate, no job, no prospect, no future. And the politicians are clamoring and making noise here and there. Without a shame, you could afford to use 100 million naira to buy a form to contest. How many people have?
It was a if, Prof, there's a part that I wrote here, and I was waiting to use it to round off this program for today, and Prof has just mentioned it. How do you feel that a man who does not earn up to the 30,000 naira minimum wage, what do you think he felt, walking in shock, watching in shock and awe, as politicians paid up to 100 million for form. To this evening's session. Let's put our hands together for him, please.
You must agree with me that it is difficult for anyone to speak after the Vice Chancellor of Great University has spoken. I agree. If I were to be, if it were in my hands, I would have said that we need to close after he had spoken. I was even looking at food security because my name was not there. I didn't know you were asking about information security. Well, information is power, and we all know that it is very good
if people are information rich rather than being information weak. Okay, let me merge it. No, I'm comfortable. After all, I'm not in a classroom. Nobody's marking my paper. I am the one that marks people's paper. Well, the whole essence of the conversation on food security, food safety, and farming is an effort to truly accord the issue of food the important pride of place it has in our lives. A hungry man is not just an angry man, he is a dangerous man. Poverty in our lands. There's a need for our gods to hear of this, the poverty that is currently ravaging our country and our people. But one thing we must agree with is that there should be a synergy trying to survive. Because when I was a student, when we hear somebody called doctor or professor, is in awe. We think the person is coming from heaven. Until I became a doctor, it became meaningless. So, in today's program, we are talking about information. But there used to be a problem, and that was why when AIG retired was speaking, he said something that is very, very important. He was talking about how even governors were part of the problem. Because the narrative had always been that except we have state police, that we can't come out of the problem we're having. But then, we're all aware of the humongous amounts of money chief executives of states cut away in the name of providing security funds. These funds are not retired, and it happens on a monthly basis. It shows that there's insincerity. It shows there's lack of political will. It shows that these people are insensitive, and like he said, they have satanic. He traced their genealogy to Satan. So we need to understand that food security is very important, because if it's not there, if we don't address it, it could lead to so many other challenges. Some people have spoken about social unrest, community clashes, insecurity, urbanization, people trying to run away from places where they are not secure to where there's security. Even now, those who are in Abuja, I have a son, one of my two sons. After serving in Abuja, I told me that they are not coming to you. I said, you're my first son. Nataka is change service. Because it's going until the Kuje thing happen. Even now, I'm still begging him to come. If people in Abuja have become unsafe, it means that what we are talking about today in our country is a very, very serious issue. I was this morning talking on radio to a Magic FM in Abia, where they were talking about a number of issues. And the former student of mine who read here in IMT, Chibweze Ben Watu, was asking questions regarding Alim Dume, the Senator President Muhammad Buhari, responsible if he should not talk about state of emergency. These things are very serious. And there's a need for all these Southeast 10 governors to begin to think proactively. I don't know if it's late, but because I saw something trending on the social media regarding people who we know that are terrorists that kill people, and they are now marching on green leaves. The only place you see green leaves is the Southeast. It's like they are very close to us. We need to wake up. We need information. Information is power. Some people want to have Abahaza and so on. If you make investment in good phones, it doesn't remove anything from you. You need to be a part of the conversation. You need to be a part of the global village. Thank you very much.
Able to round off. Okay.
I just wanted to highlight a couple of issues regarding information security. Basic things, for example. Most of us make use of cell phones today. We do money transfers. Alright? I just want you to be very careful. One of the things we want to explain under the information security will be issues regarding to how you manage your passwords. Something as simple as that. Sending emails. Because the truth is that we live in an information age today. You cannot survive without basic knowledge on how to use your phone, how to send money through your phone, and how to change your password very often. Your password it's recommended that you change it every 3 months, right? Some people want to use one password for all their connections and all that, but you have to be very smart about that. And of course, well, we are not too familiar with Internet of Things here. What I mean by that is, like in your house, all your things, your TV, everything is connected. So, but I'm sure we'll get there. We have to be very conversant with that because there are some security violations, some security breaches that can impact your overall life. Your money can be siphoned, a lot of hackers are all over the place. Identity theft. People are victims. Are also part of the things you want to check regarding information security. So it's more like ICT related. So I just want to make some of those points because, yeah, we are living in an information age. I had one young man in my village, one of his friends just asked him, can I use your phone? I needed to make a call and he gave me his phone and the guy just went by the corner. For whatever reason, took $60,000 naira from his account in a twinkle of an eye. So those are the kind of things. He reported to the police and I was told that the matter was handled satisfactorily.
Cover issues of maybe hacking someone's Facebook page. You know, we had the vice presidential candidate of Labour Party. You know, there was a Facebook that was trending with his name.
Where he was the
and then he came and denied it. In fact, when I read the first 2 stuff I read that was attributed to him on that Facebook page, to somebody with me said, look, this is not.
You know, interest, you know, more participation because we need to hear your voices. Even if you can't speak English, it's unfortunate.
Broken. Speak English.
So equal, only honor. You know, so we'll get your information. So I really thank everyone. So you can now round up and also thank Dr. Big Okaya and of course my great friend. Thank you so much.
Yeah, the panelists, thank you so much. Prof, thank you very much.
May the Lord who brought us together take us back home safely.